level. So thank you, Akshay, for joining us. You know, I have seen Akshay's journey closely. I met him a couple of years back. So congratulations on five success, and I'm sure the best is yet to come, Akshay. And very happy to also see Mr. Bhavik Vasa. Again, Bhavik is a serial entrepreneur. He sold his first company. He's now built a company that helps D2C brands and D2C businesses grow and does a combination of being a consulting company and an investment company. So thank you, Bhavik, for being here. Resham, thank you for putting it together. The World Entrepreneurship Day is being celebrated today, but for entrepreneurs, every day is a good day. Every day is a day of celebration. The day you can get up and put your mind to your dreams and give it your best is a is an entrepreneurship day. I keep saying entrepreneurs have 8 days in a week. They work 8 days in a week. I know work-life balance is important, but when you're passionate about what you do, you forget time and you're focused on doing what you are doing. So I wish you luck. I can only say entrepreneurship is what is building the country. Entrepreneurs are building products, services which are adding to the GDP. Entrepreneurs are giving employment. And entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted. I read this book maybe 10, 12 years back called Hard Things About Hard Things. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's not easy. We in the media glamorize it by how much money companies have raised. But the success of entrepreneurs is less than 1%. Out of 100 entrepreneurs that start, one entrepreneur goes on to build his or her company. So clearly, entrepreneurship is about resilience, it is about reinvention, and most importantly, it's about belief in oneself. One also has to constantly evolve to keep to the changing environment. That's what I would say, and I would want Bhavik and Akshay to be able to share how they build companies, how they're supporting other entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. So really, all the best to us, Akshay and Bhavik, and I've had the good privilege of meeting some of the best entrepreneurs in my 2.5 decade journey. Definitely, Bhavik and Akshay are, going to build companies that will do us pride. The only thing I want to end on is that entrepreneurship never fails. It's the project or idea fails. Randy Posh said, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Entrepreneurship is a new experience every day. You learn from it, you reinvent, you recalibrate, and you move on. So entrepreneurship is about people who can take feedback, who can adjust, who can engage with their team members, who can engage with external stakeholders, and they put in their best every day, and results follow. It sounds simplistic. It's not that simple. I'm sure Bhavik and Akshay will take you through that. So all the best, and thank you, Bhavik and Akshay, for joining the BW Disrupt Entrepreneurship Show. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Batra. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Batra, for setting the tone so right. And you rightly mentioned entrepreneurship is not that easy. It sounds easy. We fancy it in media, but startups is one word that is conceived to understand something that is disruptive, to innovate something. But startups today are clearly rewriting the rules across the industries, be it FMCG, fintech, payments, banking, entertainment, whatnot. In the last 10 years, India has evolved to become a hub for startups, seeing maximum unicorns in a year, major fundraisers, and of course, the recent wave of IPOs. The startups of India has seen it all, the spring as well as the winter of funding, the correction of the market, and really have come out strong and resilient. Also, with startups has become so mainstream that has ignited a happy trend of celebrating wealth creation in India. I mean, as a part of this job, we do news and conversations daily that kind of celebrate fundraisers, wealth creation, value creation, impact making, and whatnot, be it about private investors or public investors. This is one sector that has been generating employment and, of course, disruptive solutions to multiple problems across the globe. There's one very interesting data point according to World Trade Organization. SMEs represent over 90% of business population, and 60-70% of employment, 55% of GDP in developed economies. So clearly, small medium businesses therefore do not just significantly contribute to the economy, but they are the economy. Indian startups have taken the center stage by taking Indian products and services to a global level. That was never, I mean, if I'm not wrong saying that that was never been a traditional or such a common dream to have, right? For investors all across the globe, currently India is the golden bed, the right bed for investors, seeing the commendable value and impact creation. And according to a lot of industry captains, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of investors, this is the time for entrepreneurship to build. This is the right time in India to build. On the other hand, according to a recent study, only 9% of Gen Zs want to pursue entrepreneurship. Rather, the rest of them seek more stable employment options, more stable job options. We would uh, go deeper in this conversation later, but just to start this conversation with both of you, tell me, in your understanding, what has been the major factor that has added or that has immensely added in the India startup growth story? What are some of the major factors you would highlight in, let's say, if not 10 years, in last 5 years? What are some of the major factors according to you? We can start with Bhavik.
Sure. Resham, once again, thank you for having me here today. As Dr. Batra set the tone, I think he said every day is an entrepreneurship day for an entrepreneur. And truly it is. You know, it's every day is the thrill of the roller coaster ride, right? Every day for an entrepreneur is a roller coaster. It's 1 minute of a big high and another minute of low lows. But if you have really that passion for what you're solving for, I think the journey becomes that much more fun and interesting along the way. You know, to your question, what has really changed over the last decade for entrepreneurship in India? I'll answer it by saying a lot has changed and not much has changed. Let me start with what has changed. Fundamentally, I go back to my own journey. I was studying and working in the US, in Silicon Valley, which is known the mecca of the startup ecosystem. Got my taste of startup culture working at an early startup, and moved back to India in 2009-10. And literally at that time, we had such a small ecosystem of startups. You know, Akshay will remember that, you know, we were only a handful of VC funds, a handful of angels, right? मैं वापस आया and, you know, friends and family were asking me, you know, what do you, करना क्या चाहते हो? And I'm like, I'm building a startup and I'm building it in fintech. And, you know, people didn't know what I was planning to do. And from there to where we are today, I think it's a great reflection of how mature that startup ecosystem has happened and evolved in the last decade. I don't want to only talk about the success stories or unicorns or the outcome. I think it's more to do with now how everyone is willing to take that risk, to jump in. And I think the numbers reflect, right? I think the last number I just very recently saw was 1,45,000 plus registered startups, or this is only the number of registered startups. And it's not just that it's a big number. This is a true reflection of that entrepreneurship zeal. And it's not coming only from the metro cities. So yes, a lot has changed, a lot of awareness, a lot of excitement, always good success stories inspire others to jump in to doing it. And I think that's why, you know, we are seeing more people plunging in and taking that risk. On the other side, though, as I mentioned, on the flip side, not much has changed. We as a economy, we as a country like India, we've always been a country of small businesses and entrepreneurs, right? I was lucky and fortunate enough to be born in a family of entrepreneurs. My father's always been building a small business. And I think we've always seen that our backbone of our economy has been this MSMEs and SMEs. Yes, we now do call them emerging brands, emerging businesses, startups, but ultimately these are all small businesses that are starting from the neighborhood shop to mothers starting new brands from their kitchens now, literally kitchen tables. And I think that's where I think India is only getting started in building now not only a very strong startup ecosystem, but I think we've reached the stage now where we have been able to really take the next big plunge in the startup world by saying we don't only want to be an exporter of technology, but we want to be able to create great tech products for the world, great products and brands that are not just made in India, but made in India for the world. And I think that's the optimism with which we look forward to the decade ahead.
And I'm sure I'm seeing a lot of entrepreneurs actioning on that. So made in India for globe, for the world. A lot of entrepreneurs are actioning on it. Akshay, your take on this. What are some of the factors you would, you would fix that as the contributors of what we are seeing today as India's startup ecosystem?
Thank you, Reshma. I think I always have very clear insights on how entrepreneurship is different from work life. I think I've worked for almost 15 years in large corporates before I said I'm taking my own plunge. First time entrepreneur in the family, people believe that you can do great in professional careers. Was doing pretty well. But as the bug bites you, you want to solve for a problem. One of the first rules which I learned is in every no, there's a yes. When we were starting we were the first fintech digital lender in the country, and every single senior bank MD, ED we met told us, small loans, short ticket loans, unsecured loans, don't do. It's a bad idea. You'll never make money. You'll never be profitable. You'll never be able to raise institutional money. And every time we heard no, we went back and said, there's something that we are doing. None of them have worked. Let's try to solve this problem. The second part is ability to attract world-class talent in startups. I think the day one we started, we were almost 100 people in office within 90 days. I would say half of those people were pure blue blood coming from the best of colleges, best of experiences, were, let's say, even some of them were CEOs of other companies also who came and worked with us. We noticed that startup means you're solving a more complicated problem in a fast, agile manner, which means better talent will come and try to work with you. And that becomes a large beacon. Today, if I look at, I directly employ more than 900 people in the company, another 700 off roles, another 3,000 people who work as adjacent to our business as we bring in our business and give out our and get the money back. Almost 5,000 people's lives are impacted. If I go back and see how many of them are entrepreneurs in making, how many of them are incubators of other companies, how many acqui-hires have we done, how many people have built parallel businesses next to us to support us, at least 100 people like those exist. They will not exist in maybe corporates who are having 30, 40,000 employees. You will not have such talent pool getting created. The second part is ability to accept failures. We fail very regularly. We celebrate our failures. In a traditional working life, you can't celebrate failures. In a startup world, you celebrate them with the greatest amount of success. You also are blatant enough to say, I don't make profit today. Right? I think it's a learning curve. It took us 2-3 years not to make profit, right? And we're also wondering, we come from such good pedigree, how can we not make a profit, right? Today we generate, let's say, we're hoping that we'll do nearly 200 crores of PAT this year. Last year we did more than 100. It's rare that companies make that much of profitability, but the ones who do rarely get recognized. And today you get profit multiples, not just, let's say, revenue multiples, right? So world is changing and acceptance of startups is coming in a great manner. And of course, the last few years has seen very tough times, right? We in financial services, we went through 2 NBFC crises, 1 banking crisis, 1 DLG, 1 COVID, and again a credit crisis happening now. But usually it takes 30 years to get this season that the Indian economy has seen last 5 years, which means that the startup world is so much seasoned that they can face any large impact. And at the same time, if you look at the size of company growth, let's look at my own company. 2 years back, we used to do maybe 100 crores a month. Our total AUM was 170 crores, right? Today, our AUM is clutching almost 4,700. We do more than 1,000 crores a month. So look at the volume base which put in. We have grown 23 times, right? Now, such growth in traditional world is impossible to accept, but these are possibilities in new world where there's capital available. there is consciousness available, there is great amount of talent available, and you know the problem that you solve is going to cause a solid amount of impact, right? And that acceleration is what is the startup economy, right? Can you build disruptive businesses which can continue to grow that fast, right? Can they become large businesses in time to make? And what took 40 years, can it be cut down to maybe 5 or 7 years? I feel very confident that what took 40 years to make in, let's say, lending a 50, 60,000 crore AUM NBFC should take another 2, 3, maybe 4 years for another company like ours. That's the speed that you can get done it, right? And there is no backing of a Tata Birla Ambani behind it. Right? It is built by the young Indians. It's meant for disruption. It's been able to attract global talent. It's been able to attract global best-in-class PE funds and building it at scale, yet being profitable. I think that is what startup is, right? What was said not possible can be made possible.
Great to know how you're building, how you're growing. Now, two things that I mean, pull out from what you said. One is, of course, the failures. You celebrate failures, you witness failures quite often. And the second point, it is just not about starting out. It is more about how you scale up sustainably, right? Scaling up businesses requires much more than we can expect. What would you advise, or what in your journey have been your strong pillars of scaling sustainably? Both of your comments, please. I mean, what is needed to build sustainably? And it's just not about starting up. Yeah, go for it, Bhavik. You want to say something?
No, so when you were just framing that question, right? The first thing that came to my mind, Resham, is, and I try to imbibe that as the DNA for all of us here at Get Advantage. You know, when you're building a young business in a startup, you actually don't need to strive for perfection. Just execute, 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 right? It's about getting out there, quickly executing what the idea and the product is, taking feedback, and like Dr. Batra also said, you know, it's a journey of just recalibrating and fixing things fast as you move along. Perfection is actually overrated in the startup world, or that's at least one thing I share with a lot of fellow entrepreneurs that we work so closely with. You know, for us at GetVantage, it's a mission, vision, and passion to really fuel this SME and startup ecosystem. That's what we do. One of the things that I also foresaw was that in able to go out there with speed, that one barrier and that one big thing that has also changed, you know, Akshay touched upon it, that now any young youth can think of aspiring to be a first-time entrepreneur, unlike the large industrial houses, because what has really changed is access to capital. There is now so many different forms of capital available to be able to start off. And I'm not only talking about simply equity capital that's required, right? So if you have an idea, how can you quickly be able to raise that some amount of capital, try, test, and then go out and start building it, right? And as you start doing that, look, you know, I strongly believe that the journey is so difficult that it has to be a problem that the entrepreneur wants to really solve for. So first one is don't strive for perfection, but two, if you are solving for something that you've truly felt the pain and feel the need that you want to change that, I think that becomes that added advantage and that push that every business needs through the tough times. Our business really started from my own struggles, having built businesses before, you know, and I'm talking about not too far ago, just 8-10 years ago. Even if we were building startups and asset-light businesses, access to capital was difficult. You know, getting a loan from the bank, where do you bring collateral from? It was that my own pain as an operator that made me starting to see that there is this gap, and a problem I want to be able to solve is providing all forms of alternative capital over and above equity capital. There are so many other ways of financing and funding so that these businesses can really take off, really start executing on the idea and the product that they have in mind, and then keep being agile and fixing as you go to scale.
So yeah, according to you, perfection is overrated and one needs to execute. Perfection can have new definition every new day, right? Coming to you, Akshay, can you tell us one anecdote-like story that that can kind of tell us one big failure that was a turning point in your entrepreneurial journey? I mean, according to what you said, there can be a long list, but one big one.
Yeah, I just want to marry back what Bhavik said and one idea that you're looking for or one insight. I remember I had a very interesting interaction with Ram from Motilal once. And he said to me, don't go and build too many things unless your core cash cow is live, large, and really big. Right. And we were always, and coming from, let's say, working in large corporates, you were always running 50 things and one or two things were profitable. But that insight came and said, we had the MVP running, we had a product running, it was scaling, it was doing well. But we learned the art of saying, no, we are not doing other things unless the core became good. Unless the first business, which is us giving, let's say, an average customer a 6-month, 50,000 rupee loan, was not really good, unless we had 1 million active customers running, we did not open up a second business. That narrow focus, we went from putting out a product in 90 days in the market, right? I think it was an unbelievable task to execute an MVP project in 90 days, from acquiring a license to setting up a company to raising money and started lending, right? But it took us 1 million loans before we launched our second product, right? Every other competition of ours was doing 50 other things. But the day we were so good in what we did, we introduced our second product, and we had a very large cap table, investor table that time. And they came and said, what are you doing? You are best in what you do. Why can't you do the others? I said, not interested. We'll be so good that no one else will survive in our business. And that's what happened. We not only became leaders in the category, but every new business that we stepped in, we replaced the number one player and became number one literally in 6 months. It's the precision of business that you do, and the art of doing it perfectly is the business learning comes in. I think entrepreneurship and the startup world really focuses on this. Do as much as you want in your MVP, but once you crack it, there's no other MVP. You do it to the best, and that's where you keep coming out with better capability of executing to perfection. And I think that's what we have done. Today, if you look at the clutter, there are hundreds of fintech lenders, right? We still have more than 20% market share in a cluttered market, right? We are leaders in our category. We enter a new category, and every 6 months, we become the leader in that new category also. I think that's what's important. Every 6 months, a new product line comes in, you go and become the leader, and you work towards aggressively to become leadership in those areas. And that's what has the learning. Don't do too many things, but once you do it to perfection. And once you're really good at it, go become the leader in that.
Since we are talking in the backdrop of World Entrepreneurs Day, we need to understand how, a startup can figure out an inflection point when one can decide to go global. We understand that there can be a step-by-step process to perfection to become the best in their segment, in their category. But when can be a perfection or inflection point to go global? And what are some of the challenges startups and entrepreneurs face when it comes to go global?
So I'll change the definition of global, at least for the fintech as a area. You don't need to go global. Global means catering to the entire economy and every product line. We are unsecured lenders. We used to operate in 18 cities for the first 5 years of operation, or 6 years of operations. Today, we operate in 440 cities in the country. We cover the entire length and breadth of the entire Indian economy. And we are able to get at least 3.5 crore customers a year. So we have done the global reach. We keep saying, should we go outside India and open operations? We come and say the India opportunity is 1/4 of the world. There's no point going outside to disrupt. We can build a larger business here, and we can go anytime we want outside. The part about inflection point is very simple. When you know you have the capability of managing a larger customer base without disrupting your core is when you're ready to go out, right? So, and that's the example. You can learn to build business in one market. It can be replicated in another market, but you need to be sure that you're exceptionally good when you create the inflection point, right? Don't go out when you're not GMV positive. Don't go out when you don't know you are, let's say, R2 positive, etc. Right? Go out when you know the business makes sense. You know how to do it in your market, and there's another market lying where you can expand exponentially fast. That's the inflection point that you look at. Sorry, Reshma, you're muted. Still.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, now you can. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Perfect. Now, I just want to, compliment, well explained. But if you want to add something different to that, these are the fundamentals clearly explained. You want to add something different to that?
No, I think, each entrepreneur's journey is very different based on the product, the segment, the category they are in. The fundamentals don't change. Like Akshay said, you have to make sure that your core is in place. You have a disciplined balance sheet and a disciplined number before you start spreading yourself too thin. I use two very simple words when I try and tell a founder, when you're getting started, nicheify yourself, right? Stay focused, build something that's niche, really win that out, and then scale. And the second is, this is a little unpopular, but I am a strong proponent of balanced and sustainable growth. We all strive for growth. We talk about fail fast, succeed fast. No, it's about actually being able to ensure that your business sustainably and consistently survives, because it's a survival of the fittest, right? It's not about, you have to recalibrate very quickly, but being able to perform a balanced growth. And it's just reflecting to a journey that has been nearly a decade-long journey that Akshay just spoke about, right? You go and scale market by market, build out, and see a sustainable growth. Yes, as you hit all of those, you will see that inflection point, and what then kicks in is that compounding effect. A business is not built overnight, like Rome wasn't. And you have to put in a lot of years of first making sure the foundation and the layers of doing your core well, building it sustainably with good financial discipline. And then comes a compounding effect, which gets you some different scale and trajectory. And sometimes you just, you have to wait and wait for the wave, right? It's a little philosophical, but if you try and jump into a market when it's already too hot, it's too late to have entered that market, right? Do really what you feel you want to do, not because it's the hottest trend in the market, but really build for yourself and just wait wait for the wave to hit you. And you probably have to catch the wave first.
Bhavik initially said there's a lot that hasn't changed yet, right? In order to continue this startup momentum for the next 10 years, let's say 20 years now, what is that we still need from policymakers, from the system, from the ecosystem, from many other stakeholders?
So
what
I think
is needed.
I think we have the right amount of mind share required across all stakeholders, right? For any industry to really take off. For any industry to really take off, you need the right mind share from the government, from the regulators, from the industry, and the private players. And I think we are at the cusp of that. We have the Honorable Prime Minister really putting out an ambitious plan of saying a developed nation, a Viksit Bharat by 2047, right? You have a very clear ambition of making sure that we go from a 3 to a 5 to a 7 trillion economy, right? These are great to start giving focus and targets for everybody in the private ecosystem to start working towards that. So while we have all of that, I think there are still a lot of challenges, and there is nothing to hold back that a lot more has to be done in the ease of doing business in our country yet. Things are changing. They just need to rapidly change a little more, right? I think we are seeing good positive steps toward it. And some of these have just happened very recently. From the vantage point we see, ease of doing business, there is Udyam Aadhaar that's coming in for businesses and startups. What that will allow SMEs is, just like we have an Aadhaar number and it's helped our identification and KYC process as individuals, it will further help businesses as well. There is finally the announcement of what is known as entity locker, like the DigiLocker for personal documents for businesses. All these are steps towards making a far more frictionless and a far more ease of doing business. These need to be accelerated, though. We need to really catch wind of this. Number two, I think there is still a huge amount of capital that is going to be required for us to achieve that 5 trillion, 7 trillion. To share one data point, the market size we are going after and building for or solving for, MSMEs and SMEs need 20 trillion rupees. That's the credit gap. That's the working capital requirement that small businesses and startups need today to be able to scale and make most of this growth opportunity, right? So this means that a lot more global capital needs to get attracted to India, right? And it's not only that this capital has to come to the public markets. I think our public markets and our stock markets are doing phenomenally well in the last couple of years, but that also needs to come a little bit more to the private markets, to the startups, to the small businesses, right? So I think these two critical aspects, if are solved for, they make a level playing field. And then I have complete and utter confidence on the Indian entrepreneurs' resilience and abilities to go out and achieve and play the game at a global level as well.
I'm sure. Akshay, Bhavik mentioned about credit gap. What are some of the changes the ecosystem demand for? What are some of the changes you wish to see in, let's say, next 5 years, 10 years? What is required?
I think we're going through two bubbles, right? The first bubble is there is a slump in, let's say, early stage funding currently taking place. I think the acceleration which came in just after COVID has disappeared. Now most of the money is getting fueled in as the stock markets are doing pretty well, listings are coming in. So capital cash flows are drying up for early stage businesses. I think the enablement of some of them from the government will really help. The second is, unlike other markets, the Indian government machinery is one of the biggest innovators to create, let's say, creation of entrepreneurs and building up the economy in a much better manner. We saw RBI and NPCI really being forefronts in financial services, building in newness so that new processes and businesses can get built faster. We are seeing similarly across the board in every vertical. It could be as look at the way the work is happening in EV and solar, which is fueled by the government backing coming in. Look at the way the MIDC structures are coming in for many businesses, which earlier could not be built without that infrastructure. I think the government is facilitating many parts, and to really fuel this, I think a little bit more capital focus has to come in for little early stage companies. The second part is mid-stage exits, creation opportunity for investors have to get created also. So usually you find exits at, let's say, listing, and you have no exits in between for many investors. If there's a capability of creating, let's say, exit opportunities and yet not being large taxation losses for them, you'll find an abundance of capital shifting to mid-stage companies also, and that could be another great fueling for the entire piece. And if you look at the startup economy today was earlier fueled by investors doing equity. The question also is how will the debt infrastructure come in? Like most of the Western markets, debt infrastructure was drives SME success, right? If that can come in a better manner, it could be fueled by, let's say, lenders coming in to become the entire platform play, which means they need more capital provision also. If you look at the combination of these three, what could really fuel in the gap in the market, the cash flow in the market, and opportunity for exits to our investors to also come in. So all three things can really boost out the way the startup economy can really flourish. And entrepreneurs can then make businesses where exits are possible in a meaningful timelines. Investors need exit between 3 to 5 years. They can't hold for 8 to 9 years. So you create those for the entire economy to become better.
Bhavik, you want to add to it?
No, I think you know, I can only say that every entrepreneur needs validation from its fellow entrepreneurs. And I'm only glad Akshay is, validating a lot of stuff that we are also trying to do. And coincidentally, it's lovely. I've always looked at his journey not only as a fellow entrepreneur, but even as a portfolio company. We have common investors, and everything that he's talking about, which is if we can create a slightly more mature economy in the private world, I think we'll see a lot more happening and a lot more scale coming in.
I mean, in continuation of that, draw us a picture of how would India's startup ecosystem would look like 10 years down the line.
Oh, I'll take that
2034,
first.
how would it
I'll
look
take
like?
that. Yeah, I'll take that first because what excites me and gets me to wake up every day and come into work doing what we do is getting to see and have a front row vantage point to every emerging sector and every emerging business, right? I think what is absolutely uh, is two big major shifts have happened, right? I found the right.
Bhavik, we want to hear that again. We lost you in between.
Reshma,
Technology sometimes still surprises us. Actually, you want to go for it. In the meantime, Bhavish is away.
So I think, I want to just close out to say, give it a few points for entrepreneurs. The road ahead is not easy, but remember that it's the journey in life which is very important, right? You will go through ups and downs. You will go through issues that you face. But there are many businesses which are extremely interesting to do. They need to be disrupted. You are the person who can disrupt it, right? So sometimes it's also about finding the niches which allow you to be a business, identify the problem which have to be solved, look for problems which have genuinely large customer bases available, and then you go and build it out, right? It is a very interesting journey. I always believe in entrepreneurs have to be the most positive mindset individuals. They need to find what really works. Is that problem really meaningful to be solved? And will they be able to solve it and devote their time to only solve that problem?
I'm still seeking my answer. How will India's startup ecosystem will look like in 2034? Give us the broad contours.
Yeah, so let's give 3 parts of this, right?
Make 3 predictions.
The 3 predictions is disruption will take place by entrepreneurs in the healthcare market, right? Today it's been on payments and e-commerce. The healthcare market would be the one to get disrupted in a large manner. The second is 50% of Indian economy will be run by companies which have emerged in the last 15 years, right? I think the third prediction, I would say there would be a market where allowances of across the board cash flows for startup investors, for entrepreneurs, as well as capital market access for the entire base will come in. So these are my 3 predictions.
Wonderful, Akshay. Wonderful.
Okay. My 3 predictions on product, technology, and on public markets, right? So first one, I think we'll have 100+ Indian brands at the global stage, which will be global brands from India. On technology, we've already showcased to the world by proving that we have something called the India Stack with Aadhaar, digital KYC, digital locker, and also we've actually, we talk about the US or the Western market having given AI to the world. We've actually given UPI to the world. And you will see one more innovation happening very soon, is just the way we have disrupted India Stack. We've disrupted identification on technology. We've disrupted digital payments. You're going to see that happening with digital financing, where India will give OCEN to the world, an open credit enablement network, which is going to be India's gift to the world in the world of digital financing. And third prediction is that we are going to have the most buzzing in the next 5 to 7 years, the most buzzing public market. We are already seeing signs of it, where small businesses will be going and listing themselves on the SME platform or on the main platforms. And you will see a lot of bells ringing. And that's how active the public markets will be, fueled by a lot of these startups and small businesses reaching that scale and going public.
I mean, I right now want to jump into 2034 ASAP. I am equally optimistic with this, with all of these predictions and ideas of how India's startup ecosystem would look like. I would like to thank Akshay and Bhavik for making time for this, joining us for this conversation. Once again, happy Entrepreneurs Day. Enjoy and celebrate. Keep building. Thank you. So, you want to add something, Bhavik?
No, I just want to send a message out to whoever is listening in, either an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur. Have a happy day. Take care of yourself. Because one thing we don't talk about, and I take this day to talk about it, is take care of your mental and physical health. It's something that you have to build stamina for. Take care of yourself if you want to run the marathon of entrepreneurship.
Clearly, the least talked and least spoken thing about is take care of yourself. Entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Entrepreneurs Day. We look forward to 2034 soon. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Take
you,
care.
Rishma.
Thanks, Rishma.
Thanks, Akshay. Bye.